It doesn't matter where you are. Everything's dead. The whole planet's dead.
Okay, because what happens?
You have a few,
it hits it.
You have roaches, some fucking underground mammals that survive.
But you're saying it hits the planet, and then what happens? That's what I'm asking.
Everybody dies.
No.
It's miles deep into Earth in the first second. Miles deep. Elon Musk was on here talking about potential collision, right? Said if this Manhattan-sized object actually hit us, it would obliterate a continent, kill most of human life. Think about that for a second. And then you layer in what Avi Loeb keeps saying, that this object is actually an alien mothership. Its trajectory too perfect, aligned with the planets, a 1 in 500 chance by random natural occurrence. And that nickel to iron ratio that screams artificial industrial alloy. He even talks about it deploying mini probes. So this expanding coma, this new unprecedented behavior we're witnessing, it's not just an anomaly, it's a further unsettling piece of a puzzle where the mainstream government narrative is clearly suppressing the obvious implications. This thing is changing. It's evolving. What if it's gearing up for something? It's entirely possible we're living in a simulation, and this is the next level. This is getting wild. Now, let's get into the absolute nightmare scenario, the terrifying reality of what would unfold if 3-eyed Atlas were to actually somehow, against all current projections, slam into Earth. And let me tell you, what these scientists are quietly discussing, what Musk alluded to, it's far beyond your typical Hollywood blockbuster. We're talking about an event that would fundamentally rewrite everything we understand about survival, about civilization, about humanity's place in the cosmos. First, you got to grasp the sheer, unadulterated velocity of this thing. Most asteroids, most comets, they've been chilling in our solar system for eons, right? They're moving at speeds that are, comparatively speaking, pretty mundane. But 3-eyed Atlas, it's interstellar. It's coming from outside our solar system. That means it's moving at velocities that are just mind-bendingly high. We're talking 61 kilometers per second at its slowest, and it would speed up as it approached the Sunday. The Chicxulub impactor, the one that smoked the dinosaurs, that thing was clocking about 20 kilometers per second. So you're looking at an object hitting us at 3 times that speed, at least. And the energy released from impact goes up as the square of the velocity. That means this thing, even if it were smaller, would hit us with 4.5 times the energy of the Chicxulub event. 4.5 times. The dinosaur killer was a picnic compared to this. Picture it. A 3-eye Atlas impact wouldn't just be a bad day. It would be an extinction-level event, but on steroids. Cranked up to 11. Scientists are simulating this, they're running the numbers, and the results are preposterous. If this thing, which is believed to measure anywhere from 400 meters to over 5 kilometers in diameter, almost the size of Manhattan, remember, actually hit, the immediate aftermath would be an unimaginable cataclysm. Forget regional devastation. Elon wasn't kidding when he said it could obliterate a continent and kill most of human life. Imagine the moment of impact. The force would carve a crater the size of a city, vaporizing everything in its vicinity instantly. We're not talking about a little pockmark on the Earth's surface. We're talking about displacing an unfathomable amount of rock and soil, throwing it miles into the atmosphere, directly into the stratosphere, then into space. The shock wave alone would flatten cities for thousands of miles, a supersonic hammer blow tearing across the landscape. We've seen the simulations of smaller impacts, like what would happen if the Apophis asteroid, a mere 375 meters across, hit. They say we'd see that in the daytime if it flew by close enough in 2029. But this is on a whole other level. The energy would be so immense it would literally shake the entire planet to its core, potentially triggering massive earthquakes globally, volcanoes erupting in a domino effect across every continent. The initial blast, that blinding flash, would be followed by super hurricanes, firestorms, and tsunamis on an unprecedented scale. The sheer kinetic energy would superheat the atmosphere, creating a firestorm that would engulf vast swaths of land. Think about the inferno. Not just wildfires, but an entire planet catching fire in multiple places, simultaneously. The debris thrown into the atmosphere would block out the sun for years, initiating a global nuclear winter, crop failures, plummeting temperatures, ecosystems collapsing worldwide. It wouldn't just be the impact zone that's affected. It would be everywhere. The very air we breathe would be poisoned by sulfur dioxide and nitric acid, creating acid rain that would devastate what little life remained. Our oceans, critical to regulating our climate and supporting marine life, would acidify, throwing marine ecosystems into utter chaos. Now, where would it hit? That's another wild piece of the puzzle. Recent studies, these new findings, are showing that certain regions of Earth face a higher risk from interstellar objects. Scientists have identified that low latitudes near the equator face the greatest risk from an ISO, and the northern hemisphere is also vulnerable, especially considering 90% of the human population lives in this region. They've even deduced that most ISOs would likely come from two directions: the solar apex, which is the sun's path through the Milky Way, and the galactic plane. The faster ISOs are more likely to arrive in the spring, as Earth is moving toward the solar apex at that time. This isn't just random chance anymore. There are patterns to these cosmic wanderers. So, if this thing were on an actual collision course, we'd be looking at a potential strike in heavily populated equatorial regions or the northern hemisphere, right where most of us are. Think of the societal collapse, the immediate chaos. Communications would be obliterated, supply chains would cease to exist. There would be no global response, just isolated pockets of survivors fighting for resources in a ruined world. And what about the equipment, the systems tracking this? We've got the Atlas observation system out of Chile, which initially detected 3I Atlas. We have deep space monitors and high-resolution spectrographs from places like the European Southern Observatory. But even with all this tech, if 3I Atlas were truly a mothership or some advanced alien technology, as Loeb suggests, it could be actively manipulating its trajectory, hiding itself. Loeb talked about its non-gravitational acceleration, meaning something other than gravity is pushing it, affecting its trajectory. He even said its glow is pointing toward the sun, the opposite of what physics predicts for a natural comet, suggesting a jet-like mechanism or propulsion system. What if this coma expansion we're seeing, this unusual stability, is just a prelude to a maneuver? What if it's not a natural object at all, but a deliberate, targeted strike? Joe, you know how they shut down access to observational data when things get weird? NASA's data streams went silent when 3I Atlas started moving in ways no natural body ever could. Private reports started leaking whispers of something impossible. And when the European Southern Observatory verified the same acceleration, the panic began to set in. It was moving as if gravity didn't apply to it. The government would be in full-blown cover-up mode, desperately trying to maintain order while a literal doomsday scenario unfolded over our heads. The implications of such an impact, especially from an interstellar object, are almost too much to process. It's not just a big rock, it's a piece of something from another star system. It could introduce entirely alien biochemistry, foreign microbes, or even, if Loeb is right, technology that we can't even comprehend. We're talking about a complete biological reset, or worse, an introduction of something truly unknown that could have unforeseen consequences for any surviving life. The world would be a desolate, scorched wasteland. The human population, if any survived, would be reduced to a fraction, struggling in a perpetually dim, poisoned environment. The infrastructure, the internet, electricity, all gone. We'd be thrown back into the Stone Age, but with the added horror of knowing what we lost, what was taken from us by this cosmic hammer. And the mental toll? The psychological impact of seeing our world utterly destroyed by an object from beyond our solar system, possibly even a deliberate act? That's a nightmare you can't wake up from. This isn't just about physics. It's about the annihilation of our species, our culture, our entire history. It's preposterous to think about. But these are the conversations happening, man. The real conversations behind closed doors while they try to tell us everything is fine. It's not fine. Not if this thing deviates. And what if it's designed to deviate? That's the part that truly keeps me up at night. All right, man. You think you've seen it all with this thing. 3I, Atlas, right? You think you've heard every wild theory, every insane prediction. But then early December hits, and what do we get? Another layer to this cosmic onion. Something so profoundly weird, it makes your brain itch. We're talking about its coma. Man, this gaseous cloud surrounding it that's supposed to be behaving like a normal, messy, outgassing comet, but it's not. The latest observations, the stuff that's barely trickling out of the official channels but is being screamed about in private astronomical forums, they're showing an unexpected coma expansion and a stable shape that just, it defies everything we know about how these icy wanderers are supposed to work. Think about it. A regular comet, as it gets closer to the sun, it heats up, it sublimates, it starts spewing gas and dust in a chaotic, asymmetrical way. It's like a dirty snowball melting under a hairdryer all over the place, right? But with 3I Atlas, what these guys are seeing in the early December data, it's like it's controlled, it's expanding, yeah, but it's maintaining a weird, almost structured integrity. Ray's astrophotography, among others, has captured footage that seems to show shifting shapes, circular patterns, and changing brightness within that coma, with even hints of rotational wave signatures that repeat like clockwork. And then you get guys like Avi Loeb, who's been on the show, blowing my mind. He's talking about this pulsating variability in the light from 3I Atlas, a consistent, almost rhythmic heartbeat every 16.16 hours. Now, the mainstream explanation, which is always the safest bet, is that it's just a sunward jet, an anti-tail, where a pocket of ice is facing the sun, releasing material in puffs. But come on, man, a heartbeat, a structured, repeating pattern from a random chunk of space ice, that's where you start thinking, what if it's not just ice? What if it's pulsing for a reason? And the theories about these ice volcanoes, this cryovolcanism that some scientists are suggesting, they're saying it's explaining the spiraling jets, that maybe it's made of something like carbonaceous chondrites and internal heat is melting the ice, releasing vapor and dust. Which, okay, I get it. Sounds plausible for a natural object, right? But even that is an anomaly. It means this thing's composition and behavior are so far outside the norm for what we expect from a typical comet that we're having to invent new geological processes for it. And when you factor in the spectral analysis, that's where things get absolutely preposterous. We've been talking about this for months, ever since it first popped up on the radar, the anomalous nickel to iron ratio. When you look at the gas cloud, you see these incredibly high concentrations of nickel, but almost no iron. Now, on Earth, where do you find that kind of nickel-heavy iron-light signature? In industrial alloys, man, in things we make. Elon Musk, when he was here, he tried to give it a terrestrial explanation, saying, yeah, some meteorites are nickel-rich, which is true, I guess. But the proportions in 3I Atlas, as Loeb keeps pointing out, they match aerospace construction alloys. It looks manufactured, and that's not just some conspiracy theory from the dark corners of the internet. This is a Harvard astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, who's been getting censored, mind you, for even suggesting that this is a possibility. They're literally trying to shut down the discussion, which to me always means there's something they don't want us to look at. Why suppress a scientific hypothesis if it's just a crazy idea and not perhaps terrifyingly accurate? Beyond that wild composition, the spectral data also showed a redder spectrum than typical solar system comets, and at various times they've struggled to detect significant emission features that you'd expect from a normal comet like C2 or CO+. Yet, other reports point to a CO2-dominated coma with an insane carbon dioxide to water ratio like 8 to 1, one of the highest ever measured. And some scientists are even postulating a self-regenerating nickel shell on this thing, powered by something like the Mond process, a 19th century chemical process that could theoretically regenerate a metallic surface. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. They're proposing self-repairing armor for a comet because its structural integrity is defying all known physics. That's wild, man. That's absolutely wild. But then you get into the orbital mechanics, and this is where my brain truly starts to break. This thing's trajectory. It's not just unusual, it's impossible if you're just dealing with a regular dumb rock. It's got this hyperbolic trajectory, which tells you it's from interstellar space, just passing through. But then they start observing non-gravitational acceleration, meaning something other than the sun's gravity is affecting its speed and direction. It's like it's got an engine, man. It's like it's steering. And then the new data, this is the really chilling part, its non-gravitational acceleration was precisely, almost impossibly, tuned to bring 3I Atlas to exactly Jupiter's Hill sphere on the 16th of March, 2026. Do you understand what that means? The Hill sphere is the region around a celestial body where its own gravity dominates over the gravity of a larger body. It orbits, in this case, Jupiter's gravity dominating over the sun's. And this thing, 3I Atlas, made a course correction that brought it right to the edge of that gravitational influence, a precise alignment that is statistically absurd for a random object. Loeb is saying explicitly that this suggests that the level of non-gravitational acceleration was finely tuned to result in min d equals h and bring 3I divided by Atlas exactly to the radius of Jupiter's gravitational influence. It's not just a coincidence. It's like it was designed to be there to potentially deploy probes or devices that could then be captured by Jupiter's gravity. It's passing close to Jupiter at 65.9 kilometers per second, and any devices released would need to fire their engines to match Jupiter's escape speed, which is 2.2 kilometers per second at the Hill radius. This implies an advanced intentional maneuver. It's like a cosmic intelligence setting up a perfect rendezvous. And get this thing, it's been observed moving faster, then suddenly slowing down, changing direction, even vanishing from radar at times. It's acting like a machine, man. Its movements are described as purposeful, timed, exact, especially as it passes major gravitational zones near Jupiter and Mars. It's almost like it's avoiding collisions or performing these complex gravitational slingshots with incredible precision. And this retrograde motion, moving in the opposite direction of the planets but aligned with the ecliptic plane within 5 degrees, that's a 1 inch 500 chance. It's positioned perfectly to release smaller probes towards Earth or Mars as it goes. That's not natural, man. That's a design. Then there's the truly mind-bending visual anomaly, the mysterious glow and the anti-tail pointing towards the sun. Comets, as we know them, get their tails pushed away from the sun by solar radiation. It's basic physics. But 3I Atlas, it's forming this luminous structure, this dagger-straight, sharply defined anti-tail pointing directly into the solar wind. There's no turbulence, no diffusion, no random particulate spread. It looks like a controlled plume, like a thruster, like something is actively generating that effect through internal processes. Loeb calls it a jet-like mechanism pushing it forward, similar to propulsion systems. This isn't some blurry anomaly. It's a persistent, geometrically clean feature that has been captured by multiple independent observatories. It screams artificial louder than anything else, defying the fundamental rules of comet physics. So, you stack all this up, the unnaturally stable and pulsating coma, the industrial alloy-like nickel signature, the CO2-dominated outgassing that suggests self-regeneration, the non-gravitational acceleration that's perfectly timed for a Jupiter rendezvous, and this impossible anti-tail. What are we looking at here, really? A natural object that just happens to break every single known rule of physics in multiple independent ways, or is it something else? Something engineered? When scientists like Loeb try to publish papers suggesting an artificial origin, they get shut down, the narrative is being controlled, man, and that alone should make you question everything. They want us to believe it's just a weird comet, but the data, the raw data, it's screaming that this is something far, far beyond our current understanding. And if it's not natural, then the terrifying reality of a collision, even a hypothetical one, takes on a whole new chilling dimension. Because then you're not just dealing with physics, you're dealing with intent. And that's a whole nother ballgame. All right, so you've got this object, this absolute cosmic anomaly screaming through our solar system, right? And we're talking about 3I Atlas. Man, this thing is wild. We've heard the numbers, but let's really put this into perspective. Scientists are saying its nucleus alone is less than break time equals 0.5 seconds, is greater than could be anywhere from 440 meters, just under half a mile, up to a staggering 5.6 kilometers across. That's like a significant chunk of a major city, you know? Some folks, even Elon, were throwing out numbers like it could be 7 miles wide, bigger than Mount Everest. Think about that for a second. That's not just a big rock, that's an event. Now, get this. Avi Loeb, he's been drilling down on the actual mass of this thing because it's showing almost no noticeable non-gravitational acceleration, even with all the outgassing it's doing. Loeb and his team are calculating that its mass has to be at least 33 billion tons. 33 billion tons. Bro, let that sink in. Compare that to Oumuamua or Borisov, the other interstellar visitors we've seen. This thing is 3 to 5 orders of magnitude more massive. That's not a little bit heavier. That's like comparing a pebble to a mountain. The sheer density implied by that mass, given its estimated size, if it's got a solid core, means this isn't just some fluffy space snowball. This thing is dense, man. Preposterously dense for what they want us to believe it is. And the speed, the speed is another thing that just makes you go, what the hell? When it was first spotted, this thing was tearing through space at about 221,000 kilometers per hour, 137,000 miles per hour. But as it whipped around the sun, it accelerated, hitting speeds of nearly 246,000 kilometers per hour, 153,000 miles per hour. That's not just fast, that's the highest velocity ever recorded for an object passing through our solar system. It's not just passing by, it's sprinting. You don't just casually stroll into a new star system at those kinds of velocities unless something is, propelling you. So how are they even seeing this thing, right? What are the instruments telling us? This is where it gets really interesting, because we're not just looking at it with one pair of eyes. Every major telescope, space-based, ground-based, from the James Webb Space Telescope to Hubble to the Very Large Telescope, they're all pointed at this thing. And they're not just looking in visible light, they're hitting it with everything. Infrared, radio, optical, ultraviolet. It's like a cosmic MRI, trying to figure out what the hell's going on inside. The James Webb Space Telescope, with its incredible infrared capabilities, it peered into the coma, that hazy cloud around the nucleus, and what did it find? It's rich in carbon dioxide. CO2, man, along with water ice, some water vapor, carbon monoxide, carbonyl sulfide. Now, while some scientists try to normalize this, saying it could be like a regular solar system comet formed in cold, distant environments, Loeb points out that the CO2 to H2O mixing ratio is one of the highest ever recorded for a comet. That alone is a significant outlier. It suggests a very different chemical makeup than the comets we usually see, the ones born in our own cosmic backyard. Then you get into the more exotic stuff. The Very Large Telescope, it picked up traces of nickel and iron in its gas plume. But here's the kicker: an extreme abundance ratio of nickel to iron. This isn't like the typical rocky composition of an asteroid. This ratio, Loeb argues, is more akin to industrial alloys we use here on Earth. Elon Musk, bless his heart, he pushed back on my show saying, Joe, nickel-rich asteroids exist. Man, that's where we get our nickel deposits on Earth, from impacts. And he's right. That's a valid point. But the ratio, man, the specific ratio of nickel to iron in the gas plume, it's what keeps Loeb and others saying, hold on, this ain't natural. It's like finding a perfectly machined gear on a beach next to a bunch of naturally tumbled rocks. Yeah, rocks exist, but this shape, this compositional fingerprint, that's a different conversation entirely. And it gets weirder. Optical observations, they're showing this thing, is bluer than the sun at perihelion. Now, traditionally, dust from a comet, it should redden scattered sunlight. So why is this thing looking distinctly blue? What is causing that? Is it a different kind of scattering? A different kind of material entirely? It defies conventional understanding? And it's just one more data point that makes you scratch your head and wonder. Then you have the polarimetric data, how light reflects off it. This thing shows extreme negative polarization, which is unprecedented among known comets and asteroids. It means it's reflecting light in a way we've literally never seen before from a natural object. This isn't just a slight variation, it's a whole new category of weird. But the real mind bender is the stuff coming out of it. The visual observations from Hubble, they showed an anti-tail. Tails usually point away from the sun because of solar wind pressure. But this thing, it's got this glowing extension, this anti-tail pointing towards the sun, and it persisted for months. And it's not an optical illusion like some other comets have with their dust trails. This is a real sunward jet. Scientists have even analyzed the ram pressure of this anti-tail, and it actually exceeds the pressure of the solar wind. Think about that. The solar wind is moving at 400 kilometers per second, thousands of times faster than gas from a normal comet. For this anti-tail to push against that, its mass density has to be 1,000,000 times greater than the solar wind density. If this were a natural comet losing that kind of mass, it would have lost about 10% of its minimum estimated mass in just 2 months. That's insane. It's physically preposterous for a natural object to maintain that kind of output. And it's not just a single anti-tail. Observations are showing twin jets, tightly collimated, geometrically stable, stretching out for millions of kilometers, and they're not being smeared or distorted by the comet's rotation. This just doesn't happen with natural outgassing from a spinning, irregular comet nucleus. This is what you would expect from directed propulsion. This is the kind of phenomenon that makes you think, okay, that looks engineered. And the latest, the absolutely wild latest, astronomers are detecting a heartbeat pattern of light, repeating every 16.16 hours. Loeb connects this to a sunward jet, saying it could be a large pocket of ice facing the sun, pumping up the coma like a heartbeat with a puff of gas and dust, serving the role of a stream of blood. But here's the thing, man. If it's a natural object, why wasn't this systematically studied before? Why are these patterns only now being highlighted? And why do they align so perfectly with the possibility of something artificial? It's like the universe is playing a drumbeat, and it's telling us something profound. All these scientific data points, they start to paint a picture that deviates so radically from anything we understand about comets. It's moving with an impossible speed, an inexplicable trajectory that aligned itself perfectly with the ecliptic plane, a 0.2% chance, by the way. It's even lining up for a rendezvous with Jupiter's Hill Radius on the 16th of March 2026, within a whisker of what Loeb calls an extraordinary coincidence. And he's not just making this up. The calculations show it's within a few thousand kilometers of Jupiter's gravitational sweet spot. Why would a random chunk of ice perfectly align itself to drop off technological devices at Jupiter's stable Lagrange points? That's where you'd park a satellite, man, where orbital corrections and fuel requirements are minimal. It's too specific, too precise. If this thing were to actually hit Earth, forget about it. Musk wasn't being hyperbolic when he said it would obliterate a continent and kill most of human life, if not all of us. We're talking about an object potentially the size of Manhattan hitting us at 150,000 miles an hour. You don't recover from that. That's a reset button on a planetary scale. And while NASA keeps telling us there's no threat, that it's going to pass us by at a safe 270 million kilometers, the sheer impossibility of its behavior, the scientific data screaming anomaly, it forces you to confront the hypothetical. Because if the data is this wild and the interpretations are being suppressed, then what are they really trying to hide? It's not just about a comet anymore. It's about what the scientific data is really telling us about our place in the cosmos and whether we're truly alone or just being visited. It's about what the scientific data is really telling us about our place in the cosmos and whether we're truly alone or just being visited. And that right there is where your mind starts melting. Because if we're going by the actual objective data, not the narratives, not the comforting stories from institutions that always want to keep us calm, but the raw, unadulterated observations from telescopes, from spectral analysis, from every goddamn sensor we've got pointed at this thing, then what we're looking at with 3i Atlas is preposterous. It fundamentally challenges everything we thought we knew about space, about physics, about life itself. I mean, Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist, a guy who actually has the courage to say what he sees, he's been on the show, and he just lays it out. This isn't just a comet. This isn't just a rock tumbling through space. He's talking about anomalies, plural, that defy every conventional explanation. This thing is not following the rules. And when a supposedly natural object just decides to break the laws of physics, that's when you got to ask, what the hell's going on? Is less than break time equals 0.5 seconds is greater than what kind of intelligence, what kind of technology could be behind something like this? Think about the non-gravitational acceleration, right? They're telling us something beyond gravity is affecting its trajectory. Jamie, pull that up. Something is pushing this thing. It's not just passively falling through space, it's actively maneuvering. And it's not some random, chaotic push either. Loeb talks about its trajectory being so precise, so incredibly aligned with the plane of our solar system's planets within a mere 5 degrees that the odds of it being accidental are like 1 in 500. 1 in 500. That's not a coincidence, man. That's a design choice. That's a flight plan. And then there's the whole sunward anti-tail thing, this mysterious glow that's pointing towards the sun, not away from it like every other goddamn comet we've ever seen. What is that? The mainstream explanation is some bizarre venting of gases, but Loeb is out there saying, no, this could be a jet-like mechanism pushing it forward like propulsion. You're telling me this isn't just some exhaust plume from a dirty snowball, it's a thruster? A deliberate emission of energy to change its course, to stabilize its position? That's wild, man. That's absolutely wild to consider. That this might not be some icy crust venting, but a controlled, engineered release of propulsion. What kind of advanced system would even create such a phenomenon? We're talking about something that could potentially be utilizing exotic physics, maybe even quantum effects, to achieve thrust that seems to defy our current understanding of rocket science. The energy requirements for something like that over interstellar distances are staggering, which implies a civilization with almost incomprehensible power generation capabilities. You could be looking at a propulsion system that taps into zero-point energy, or perhaps some form of warp drive that barely tickles the fabric of space-time, leaving behind only these anomalous signatures that look like a comet to our primitive instruments. It's entirely possible, and that's just the start. You got the bizarre chemical fingerprint of this thing, the anomalous nickel to iron ratio. It's mostly nickel, hardly any iron, and as Loeb pointed out on the show, that ratio is what we find in industrial alloys here on Earth, in materials we engineer for aerospace construction. Elon Musk tried to offer an alternative, saying, yeah, some meteorites are nickel-rich, and that's true. You can find nickel-rich deposits on Earth from impacts, but it's the ratio, man, the specific lack of iron relative to the nickel that's raising eyebrows. That screams manufacturing, not natural formation in some protoplanetary disk. You're talking about a structure, a skin, a hull made of something designed, not naturally occurring. What would you make a spaceship out of if you were trying to traverse the vast, unforgiving vacuum of interstellar space for millions of years? Something incredibly durable, resistant to radiation, micrometeoroids, extreme temperatures. Nickel alloys are tough. They're strong, they're corrosion resistant, and if you're building a massive craft, something the size of Manhattan, like this thing is estimated to be, you'd choose materials for their specific properties, not just whatever dust and ice happen to glom together. This isn't a cosmic snow cone. This is a piece of advanced engineering, if that ratio holds up. And if it's made of that kind of material, it's not just passing through, it's surviving an unimaginable journey, which implies incredibly robust shielding. So let's talk about shields. If this thing is artificial, if it's a probe or a mothership, it's got to have serious protection. It's been out there for who knows how long, traversing unimaginable distances, zipping through interstellar dust, cosmic rays, solar flares, all that chaotic shit, that expanding coma, that fuzzy cloud of ice and dust that's supposed to be typical of a comet. What if that's not just outgassing? What if that's an active shield? A dynamic energy field, or a cloud of nanoparticles, designed to deflect incoming debris, to manage thermal loads, to literally mask the true object within? The search results even mention that the coma reflects 99% of sunlight. 99%! That's not just a fuzzy glow, that's almost perfectly reflective. Could that be a cloaking mechanism, a way to manage its energy signature, to make it appear as a mundane comet, a dirty snowball, when in reality it's something far more sophisticated, hunkered down inside its reflective bubble? It's genius, man, if you think about it. The ultimate camouflage. And the shape. We're seeing a stable shape within that coma, despite all the weird activity. If this were just a loose aggregation of ice and rock, you'd expect it to be more chaotic, more susceptible to tidal forces and solar wind. But it's stable. It's holding its form. That suggests structural integrity, an internal framework, a design. And that newly observed heartbeat pulse of light every 16.16 hours, that's not random. That's a rhythm. That's a signal. Loeb is suggesting it could be extraterrestrial engineering, some kind of controlled emission. Is it communicating? Is it scanning? Is it activating internal systems? This isn't just a flickering candle in the cosmic wind. This is a blinking light, a deliberate pattern. What about sensors then? If this is a probe, it's here to observe. It flew past Mars on October 2nd, 2025, within 29 million kilometers. Loeb hinted that critical data from that flyby has never been released. Why? What did we see? Was it scanning Mars? Was it deploying something? Because Loeb and Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna have openly warned that if 3I Atlas is a mothership, it could be deploying small probes to observe Earth. Think about that. Little stealthy probes made of the same advanced nickel alloy, capable of bending light or using controlled phase modulation to hide in plain sight, just buzzing around our planet, taking notes, sending data back to the mothership. The fact that this thing slowed down enough to remain in the inner solar system longer than predicted, drifting quietly behind Earth's orbital wake, like a shadow following its source, as one report put it. That's reconnaissance, man. That's intelligence gathering. It's not a random wanderer. It's an active participant. And that brings us to the really chilling stuff. The stuff that keeps you up at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if we're just ants in a cosmic game. The dark forest theory. It's this idea, popularized by Lou Sixton's science fiction, that the universe isn't some friendly neighborhood full of benevolent aliens waiting to say hello. No, it's a dark forest, man. Every civilization is an armed hunter, stalking through the trees like a ghost, silent, because revealing yourself means death. The logic is brutal. You can never know another civilization's intentions. Are they peaceful? Are they hostile? Are they just resource hungry? You don't know. So The safest option, the only option for long-term survival in a truly dangerous cosmos, is to eliminate any nascent life that makes itself known. It's a terrifyingly logical solution to the Fermi paradox, to the question of where is everybody? They're all hiding, or they've been eliminated. Now, if 3I Atlas is some kind of probe, a reconnaissance mission, how does that fit into the dark forest? Is it a scout assessing us? Are we too loud? We've been blasting radio signals out into space for a century, sending out probes with maps to Earth. If the dark forest theory is right, we've already made a potentially fatal mistake. This object, appearing from beyond our solar system, with its perfectly aligned trajectory, its precise planetary flybys, its ability to distort space itself, making light from distant stars bend more than gravity alone could explain, that's not a rock, man. That's something capable of manipulating reality as we understand it. It's a technological marvel beyond our wildest dreams. And if it's a scout, what is it reporting back? Are we deemed a threat? A resource? Or are we just too primitive to even register as more than a blip? Then you get into von Neumann probes. This is another layer of chilling. John von Neumann, the mathematician, calculated back in the 1,940 seconds that self-replicating machines could colonize an entire galaxy in just 500,000 years. Think about that. 500,000 years to spread across billions of stars. These probes would land on dead moons, harvest local materials, iron, nickel, all the stuff that's apparently in this 3I Atlas thing. They'd build copies of themselves, then launch those copies towards new star systems. Each probe becomes 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 8. The math becomes horrifyingly exponential. So, is 3I Atlas a von Neumann probe? Is it here to assess our resources, to self-replicate? Or is it a precursor to such a probe, a scout determining if this solar system is ripe for the picking for harvesting and replication? The nickel content, the stability, the anomalous behavior, it all starts to fit into a terrifyingly coherent picture of a self-sustaining, self-replicating interstellar machine. It's engineered to last. It's engineered to explore. And it's engineered to potentially expand. And the implications of that, if we really sit with it, are mind-bending. If it's distorting space, if it's capable of controlled phase modulation to bend light and hide, we're talking about technology that makes our most advanced stealth bombers look like paper airplanes. It implies a mastery of physics that we can only dream of. And for that kind of technology to be silently drifting into our backyard, observing us, potentially relaying information, it just solidifies the dark forest concept. Why be loud when you can be a ghost? Why announce your presence when you can gather all the data you need from the shadows? The scientific community, the gatekeepers, they're still trying to push the narrative of a comet, a natural object, right? But Loeb, man, he keeps hammering it home. We need to figure out why it is so unusual. Not prove it is alien, but figure out why it is unusual. That's the real scientific approach. And if the data is screaming anomaly and the interpretation is being suppressed, then what is it they are truly afraid of? Is it the financial markets crashing? Is it the collapse of religions? Is it the realization that we're not special? That we're just another species in a cosmic game we don't understand? Loeb said that if we ever truly encounter alien technology, everything will change. It will affect the financial markets. It will affect politics in a major way. He's not kidding. That would be a civilizational jolt, a complete paradigm shift, the kind of reality check that would make people question everything. And to think that this thing might have the capability to deploy mini probes, to perform reconnaissance, to operate with such precision that it's almost taunting our instruments with its defiance of physics, all while the so-called experts are trying to tell us it's just a space rock. That's where the anger comes from, man. The suppression of information, the fear of challenging the established dogma. Because if we are indeed being visited, if this is a piece of advanced artificial technology, then our understanding of the universe and our place in it is about to be violently, irrevocably shattered. And what if it's not a friendly visit? What if we've been broadcasting our location for decades into a dark forest, and now, finally, something has answered the call? This isn't just a comet, man. This is potentially the first undeniable piece of evidence that the universe is far, far stranger and perhaps far more dangerous than we ever dared to imagine. And what if it's not a friendly visit? What if we've been broadcasting our location for decades into a dark forest, and now, finally, something has answered the call? This isn't just a comet, man. This is potentially the first undeniable piece of evidence that the universe is far, far stranger and perhaps far more dangerous than we ever dared to imagine. The whole damn planet is on fire with this conversation right now, man. You got people on one side clutching their pearls, dismissing it all as nothing more than a space rock, doing exactly what space rocks do. And then you got guys like Avi Loeb, who is literally calling out the entire scientific establishment, saying, hold on a minute, you're missing something huge. The debate, the actual war within the astronomical community, it's wild to watch. You see NASA, right, with their official statements, trying to calm everyone down, saying, it's just a comet, folks, nothing to see here. Move along. They're out there, clear as day, stating that 3I Atlas poses no threat to Earth, with its closest pass being a comfortable 270 million kilometers away on the 19th of December 2025. ESA's saying the same thing, echoing that it's just a natural object, nothing to worry about. And then you got their lead scientist for solar system small bodies, Tom Statler, repeatedly saying it looks like a comet. It does comet things. Like he's trying to drill it into our heads that it's just a regular run-of-the-mill icy rock from another star system, even if it is the first we've ever seen with these specific characteristics. They're showing fuzzy images, holding press conferences after a damn government shutdown, trying to put the lid back on this Pandora's box, saying, yep, natural origin confirmed. But then you hear Avi Loeb, man, and he's not buying any of it. He's saying, look, NASA, you're missing the point. He's out there straight up saying NASA should have emphasized what they don't understand about 3I Atlas. Instead of just insisting it's a familiar comet from a new environment, he's pointing out a dozen, count 'em, 12 significant puzzles, calling out how they failed to address these anomalies in their analysis. He's talking about the object's large mass compared to Oumuamua, the mysterious behavior of its non-smearing jets, how they're tightly collimated and extending for millions of kilometers, suggesting it might be a technological artifact rather than a standard comet. He's saying that this reluctance to even consider the possibility of alien technology, it mirrors the historical academic resistance that Galileo faced, risking us missing the most significant scientific discovery in human history. It's like they're terrified of looking stupid. Is less than break time equals 0.5 seconds is greater than terrified of upsetting the apple cart. Because if Loeb is right, if there's even a small chance this thing is artificial, then everything we thought we knew about the universe, about our place in it, just gets thrown right out the window. He's putting the odds at 30 to 40%. That 3I Atlas doesn't have a fully natural origin. Think about that, man. 30 to 40%. Those are incredibly high odds for a Harvard professor to be throwing out there in the scientific community where everyone else is just trying to put it in a neat little box. And the anomalies he's talking about, they're not just small inconsistencies, dude. We're talking about mind-bending stuff. The anti-tail, for example. Comets usually have a tail that points away from the sun due to solar radiation. But 3I Atlas displayed a sunward jet, an anti-tail that isn't just some optical illusion. Loeb says this could be the result of a jet-like mechanism, like a propulsion system, pushing it forward. Then there's the nickel. When Elon Musk was on the podcast, we talked about this. Rogan brought up how scientists found nickel in its gas cloud, and on Earth that's primarily found in industrial alloys. Musk agreed that if it was all made of nickel, it'd be a heavy spaceship. But even though Musk also offered a terrestrial explanation, saying many comets and asteroids are made of nickel, the anomalous nickel-to-iron ratio akin to industrial alloys still stands out as evidence for Loeb. This isn't just a slightly different chemical mix, man. Its nickel to cyanide ratio is orders of magnitude larger than known comets, with a likelihood below 1% of being natural. That's wild. And what about the water, man? Comets are supposed to be icy, watery things, right? But the gas plume from 3, Atlas reportedly contains only about 4% water by mass, which is a primary constituent of familiar comets. That's almost nothing. If the water content is that low, as Loeb suggested, and some initial papers were wrong, then we are in uncharted territory, and we have to consider explanations that make people very uncomfortable. It's like they're looking at something that should be one thing, but it's doing something else entirely, and instead of digging into why, the mainstream is just trying to force it into their existing models. Then there's the trajectory, dude. Loeb says its retrograde trajectory is aligned with the ecliptic plane of the planets to within 5 degrees, which has a likelihood of only 0.2% for a random object. And its close encounters with multiple planets are statistically baffling. He calculates that the alignment of its path with the plane of the planets is so rare that the chance of it being a random, natural, interstellar object is approximately 1 in 100 million. 1 in 100 million. That's not a coincidence, man. That's a design. And he's claiming it's doing non-gravitational acceleration, that something other than gravity is affecting its trajectory. It's moving in ways that defy everything we thought we understood about comets and asteroids. It's almost like it's piloting itself, man, making course corrections. Some even speculated it could be using directed energy for propulsion. That's preposterous. Or is it? The public is freaking out, man. Social media is just exploding with theories. You got people talking about military movements, international coordination to counter a comet before impact. NASA and ESA are trying to debunk it, saying all these claims are baseless, but the seeds of doubt have been planted. Because if you have the head of Harvard's Galileo project, a credible scientist, putting out these kinds of numbers and observations, and the official agencies are just saying, nah, it's fine, it makes people wonder what they're not telling us. It creates this massive distrust. Loeb even noted that it arrived from a direction coincident with the famous WOW signal to within 9 degrees, with a likelihood of 0.6%. The WOW signal, that unexplained radio signal from 1977 that some astronomers thought was a legitimate sign of alien intelligence. The fact that 3I Atlas is approaching from that same cosmic neighborhood isn't something easily dismissed as a coincidence. It makes you think there's a pattern, a message, something deliberate in its path. And if it's sending mini probes, like Loeb suggests it could, for reconnaissance towards Earth and Mars, that just kicks the whole thing up another notch. That's a whole different level of terrifying. It implies active intelligence, observation, intent. The mainstream scientific community, man, they're digging their heels in. They're saying it's natural, it's just a comet, albeit an unusual one. They point to the coma and tail as telltale features of a true comet, physical manifestations of volatile gases and dust vaporizing from the sun's heat. They're doing spectroscopy, detecting molecules familiar from other comets. They're saying these slight chemical variations just reflect tantalizing differences in its home star system, not alien engineering. But then you hear Loeb, and he's countering that. An artificial craft traveling through cold interstellar space could easily have gathered an icy, dusty layer that would sublimate near the sun, mimicking a comet's behavior and disguising the vessel beneath. It's a Trojan horse scenario, man. A technological object masquerading as a natural comet. And if that's true, then everything they're saying about its natural behavior could just be part of the disguise. That's wild. It's a battle of paradigms, man. You got the old guard, the gatekeepers of academia, refusing to even entertain the idea because it challenges their entire worldview. They're dismissing these anomalies without thorough investigation, and Loeb is calling them out, saying that's a grave error that could cause humanity to miss the most significant scientific discovery in history. He's saying they're alienating the public by excluding these anomalies from their official vocabulary. Because the public wants to know if we're alone, man. We're obsessed with it. And when you get these conflicting narratives, one from a highly respected Harvard professor and the other from official government agencies, it just fuels the fire, man. It makes people think there's a cover-up, a deliberate attempt to keep us in the dark. Elon Musk even hinted at the devastating potential if this thing, this heavy spaceship, as he called it, were to actually collide with Earth. He said an impact could obliterate a continent and kill most of human life. He clarified it was a what-if scenario, but the implications, man, they hang heavy in the air. If this thing is artificial, and if it were to veer off its non-threatening course, suddenly we're not talking about a random act of nature anymore. We're talking about something with intent, with purpose, with the capability to cause extinction-level events. That's the terrifying reality that this debate is swirling around, even if NASA says it's not a threat. Because if even a small probability exists that this is an alien probe, a mothership, then the stakes are infinitely higher than just observing a pretty light in the sky. It means we could be looking at a deliberate interaction, and we have no idea what that truly means for us. No idea at all. All right, so you're looking at 3I, Atlas, this thing. Man, a tangent size, 33 billion tons, ripping through space at 155,000 miles an hour. NASA's like, nah, it's just a comet, chill. But Elon Musk, man, he's on my show talking about a what-if scenario. If this thing hit us, he said it could obliterate a continent, kill most of human life. Think about that level of annihilation. And then you got Avi Loeb, a Harvard guy, seeing data that doesn't make sense for a natural rock, a trajectory too perfect, like it's designed to deploy probes, a glow pointing against the sun, defying physics, an industrial nickel to iron ratio that screams manufactured. And he says the scientific community is blocking these discussions, man, actively suppressing any talk of intelligent design. They're scared to call it what it might be, a black swan event, something that changes everything. It's preposterous. This isn't just a comet, it's a riddle, wrapped in a mystery, and it's screaming through our solar system. So, what are we really looking at here? A random cosmic accident with species-ending potential, or a meticulously crafted alien scout, its purpose unknown, its intentions shrouded in interstellar silence, is less than break time equals 0.5 seconds, is greater than. What if all this is just a prelude? What if this object, whatever it is here to fundamentally shatter our understanding of existence itself? It's wild. If this conversation blows your mind, if it sparks that primal curiosity, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button right now. Join the millions hungry for truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Like this video, drop your wildest, most unfiltered theories in the comments below. Let's get this debate raging and share this with anyone who's ready to peel back the layers of reality. Keep questioning everything, because the universe is far stranger than we've been led to believe.